In fact, this episode is being streamed live on facebook.com/Law FM Radio. Facebook.com/Law FM Radio. Our Instagram page is at Law FM Radio. Our Twitter handle is at Law FM_radio. You can listen live on our website from anywhere in the world on lawfmng.com, www.lawfmng.com. The studio numbers you need to store now that you can use to directly interact with our guest when the lines are opened. Indeed, you can send text messages and WhatsApp messages through these numbers: 070-322-77338, 070-322-77338, or 090-9555-1039, 090-9555-1039. You can also send WhatsApp and text messages as earlier stated. My name is Gbola Oba and I'm available on social media: facebook.com/Gbola.Oba, facebook.com/Gbola.Oba. My Instagram page is at Gbola_Oba. My Twitter handle is at Oba_Gbola. Our Nigerian proverb for today says, "May the number of wise elders not be totally exhausted in the land." May the number of wise elders not totally be exhausted in the land. It sounds more like a benediction, but the Yorubas believe that the wisdom of the elders cannot be totally discountenanced with. Summary analysis of some of today's major news headlines. Gunmen burn Imo Magistrates Court. Gunmen, we just have to find a way of reaching out to some disgruntled elements in the southeast of Nigeria to calm down. Calm down. You cannot put that region of the country to the kind of mess that these exuberant youngsters are putting it to. I was being intimated with a report last week that in the last 2 years, about 4 trillion Nigerian naira has been lost in the area of commerce, specifically in the area of transportation and one other sector of the economy. This is preposterous. We don't need to further ingrain poverty in our land. We must find a way of talking to these youngsters. Concerns as government shrugs off key inflation drivers. Concerns as federal government shrugs off key inflation drivers. And lastly, for this segment, before we go on a short commercial and then fully and formally introduce our guest who is already seated in the studio, arms deal. Court convicts Doyin Okupe for money laundering. Arms deal. Court convicts Doyin Okupe for money laundering. I wonder what this says to the idealism of obedience. If the chief operating officer of Obedient Movement is now put in this, a couple of days ago, his state's branch from Ogun, the chieftains of the branch were the ones casting stones at him. Now, a court of competent jurisdiction has convicted him for some of the activities he was involved in as one of the advisors of the then profligate presidency of Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. I wish them well. We'll wrap it up. We'll wrap this segment up for now. We'll go on a short commercial, and when we're back, we do it as we usually do it. See you after the commercials.
Let's talk about society, family, lifestyle, court cases, legal matters in the layman's perspective. This is Law FM 103.9 for knowledge and entertainment.
You are the leaders of the country today. Tomorrow has come. Law is meant to be understood by everyone in society, irrespective of age or status. No bias. It should be clear and precise. Law FM 103.9 gives you the best content, and they are here for you. My name is Khadija Okunulamidi, and I urge you to keep listening to Law FM 103.9.
Hello guys, my name is Dele Momodu and you are listening to Law FM 103.9 for knowledge and entertainment. Your only law radio station.
This is Nigeria's number one law radio station. 103.9.
In Africa, actually, Nigeria.
Power Corridor on Law FM 103.9.
Welcome back to Power Corridor, Law FM 103.9. Power Corridor on Law FM 103.9. During the short break, somebody in the studio who was not quite happy that I mentioned the fact, or I reported the fact, that Doyin Okupe has been convicted by a court of competent jurisdiction regarding some illicit activities that took place under the presidency of Dr. Jonathan. She was not quite empathetic or not quite sympathetic to the fact that, it was under Jonathan, but because of, I said, not be my fault, I was just reporting a story. Or should we?
Right.
should we leave the story out of
no comments. I just came here to say no comments.
Okay. And I'm not saying anybody is an obedient person. It's not even a sin.
Not. I mean, we can hear you clearly not saying.
No, and I've always told you too that if I were to be 35 or below, I probably would have been obedient. But that's not the issue. Now we have our guest already in the studio. But before we formally introduce our guest, we do this literary introduction that we usually do. Our topic today: democracy is in recline across the world. Nigerians must watch out and be sober. From Guinea to Mali in our sub-region, to Myanmar and Nicaragua in Asia and Latin America respectively, democracy's face is being ugly. Indeed, Russia, Turkey, Poland, Hungary, Indonesia, Tunisia, Egypt, Venezuela, and El Salvador have strong men pretending to be presiding over democracies that are, at best, illiberal. We now even have a coinage of illiberal democracies. It is in the backdrop of this global democratic decline across the world that we will be discussing Nigeria's date with democracy in February and March of 2023 with a political pundit. I usually call him Kabiyesi Biodun Sowunmi. Pardon my coinage, because I am one who believes that once somebody has been pronounced publicly once as a Kabiyesi, for me, he remains a Kabiyesi forever. I was watching national TV one morning, Channels TV, and he was the guest, and he was wearing the cap, and they asked him, and they said his people he was the Oba elect of his. I don't want to know the stories, but for me, he remains a Kabiyesi. Kabiyesi Biodun Sowunmi, I welcome you.
I'm pleased to be here, my brother.
Fantastic, it's indeed a privilege to have you. You have been invited in your capacity as a respected political pundit. And let's start from where somebody you want to enlighten us or give us some degree of illumination to what may be the circumstance of the gentleman and the reflective or reverberative circumstance that it may cast on
Doyin Okupe. What actually happened is when Jonathan was in power, Goodluck Jonathan was in power, some legacy were distributed to different people. Some got it in their accounts and some people got it in cash. Doyin Okupe happens to be one of those who got the money in cash. He was arrested by the FCC when Buhari came in and he was interrogated. He made statements admitting to the fact that he was given money and by Dasuki in person, and the money was given to him in cash. Now, the EFCC has not charged him for obtaining money meant for harms, fraudulently, because he was not fraudulent. It was actually given to him by Dasuki. But then there is the other side of it, the offense of money laundering. If you have more than certain amount of money with you, particularly 10 million, once it's more than that, and you are not paying it through a bank, then is regarded as money laundering. For private people, it's about 2 million, except they've changed it. It used to be 2 million, company is 10 million. Any excess over that, it's an offense in Nigeria.
Can I then also ask a question that is quite contiguous to the facts that you have just enlightened us about? I know that Dr. Reuben Abati once returned 5 million to the federal government because he said that was the only part of the money that was supposedly given to him by the same Dasuki to give to journalists. And I'm sitting here now, but he was not convicted in a court of competent jurisdiction. He only decided out of agreement to refund the money. Why is Doyin Okupe, particularly on this occasion that he seems to be casting another trajectory, why is Doyin Okupe now a convict and Reuben Abati is not a convict? Nduka Bagbena, who also returned hundreds of millions of naira, is not a convict. Yes. Why Doyin Okupe? Yes. Is it because of let's be practical, is it because they want to stigmatize the obedient movement?
No. Far from it. What happened is there is a difference between the offense committed by Reuben and the one committed the one by Reuben alleged offense. The one committed by Okupe is being convicted. Is a convicted felon now. Now, what happened is in the case of Nduka Oba,
the way you said it, some obedience would not be very happy.
But that's the fact. Once you are convicted, you are convicted. There is no other way around it. In the case of Nduka Oba and Reuben Abati, they were paid. They admitted. Actually, Reuben got 500 million naira. That was his statement. That was what he admitted to, when he wrote his statement, at the EFCC's office. Now, the issue is this: the money has been distributed to different journalists one way or the other, and he explained how he distributed the money. So he returned the remaining money left with him, so he was able to get away lightly on that. He has not been charged. He was arrested, held in custody, but not charged. In the case of Nduka Oba, it's a similar situation. Nduka claimed he got the money on behalf of newspaper houses, publishers, but he didn't get the money through. He didn't ask them to pay the money into Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria. He got it in an account where he's the sole signatory.
And some newspapers, the Tribune, and about 3 other newspapers,
they actually denied
wrote editorials rejecting that he was representing them.
Absolutely. That since then he has not returned the money, at least as far as we know. In the case of Okupe, the offense is not about receiving money, it's about being in possession of a large amount of money which should have been processed through the banking system.
So it's specifically a money laundering conviction,
because the money did not go through the financial system. So that is the problem with Okupe. The case of Abati, the money was actually paid, and Oba was paid into an account. So because of that, they cannot charge Oba for money laundering, because he didn't launder the money.
As a political pundit, as an analyst, would you think that it is one coincidence too lousy given the time of this conviction, because it could be presumed, especially by many of our youngsters, who may think that, on the one hand, life is they've been outdone by, on the other hand, they seem now to be steaming up as a political force, and the party that they are looking to as a party to rescue them from the morass they believe they are in, the party is seemingly now being picked upon by the establishment. If you were to swap places with them, I know you are quite a mature person, but if you were to swap places with them, would you want to sympathize in some respects with them?
Yeah, honestly speaking, I actually sympathize with Peter Obi, because everything that can go wrong is going wrong for him. In terms of
what do you mean? It's just only Doyin Okupe, no?
No, it's not only Doyin Okupe. If you look at what has been going on within the Labour Party, it's shocking. It's not just about,
such as, let's be a bit more specific.
It's not. It's about money actually. The Labour Party seems to be infested, with people who will not even wait to get to power before grabbing money. There had been so many reports, several reports of money issue. It's not only Doyin Okupe. We had the case of Anambra.
Would you be kind enough to just give one or two specific reported?
For instance, the case in Ogun, the Ogun Labour Party's case against Okupe is about 20 million naira, which was meant for campaign, which was not disbursed, and
I thought
claimed Okupe kept the money to himself. And it's not only that.
I thought the allegation in Ogun was that he had not paid his membership dues. I didn't hear about the 20 million. Just me.
The 20 million allegation was actually made by the party, the Ogun State chapter of Labour Party, and that was what started the crisis. And it was easier for them to get rid of him by coming up with the issue of not paying his membership dues, and then that made it easier for them to try to get rid of him.
We must also put in perspective here that the National Executive Council of the party had disbanded the Ogun State ESCO and declared the activities of the chieftains or ex-chieftains who supposedly made that move against Okupe. They had declared them as illegal and working as fifth columnists in the rank of their party.
Honestly speaking, Abure, the national chairman, and members of the National Working Committee of Labour Party must be licking their wounds now with the development on the jailing of Okupe. The party has found itself in a major problem. And don't forget Dr. Abayomi Arabambi's cases there, who happens to be the suspended National Publicity Secretary. He has actually made an allegation that the leadership of the party tampered with the Court of Appeal judgment. He stated that clearly, to the press on Arise TV, and in addition to that, he has actually promised that when suspended, he will supply the whole information and more other details of illegalities, to the
alleged illegalities. But we must also put it out there. We must also put it out there that the gentleman you just referred to seemed to be working against a major legal achievement that the Labour Party had gotten on behalf of politicians in Nigeria, and that is the Labour Party, as at this juncture, has a prima facie Court of Appeal ruling that states that because INEC closed the window for candidates to submit their particulars about a week earlier, the Court of Appeal says any party, not even peculiar to any party that has an outstanding candidate, can submit their details now. And Arabambi seems to be fighting against that major legal accomplishment. Does that not smack of fifth columnism?
Well, Dr. Abayomi Arabambi was the chairman of NLC in Ogun State. He's a veteran of so many labor struggles. He's not known to make allegations lightly without having some evidence, and he has made it very clear that when he's queried, which is certainly going to get processed through the internal disciplinary system of the Labour Party, and he said, look, he's going to spill the whole beans and put everything out. So whatever he has, I don't know, but he is alleging that the judgment of the Court of Appeal was tampered with. That is, the one served to INEC was extended one way or the other to accommodate some other interest, and that's the allegation which he made clearly on Arise TV. Okay. So it remains to be seen how this will be resolved. But the major point which we should not lose sight of is that it's quite unfortunate. That's why I said I feel so sorry for Peter Obi. If you're trying to lead a revolution, in the country, you are trying to influence the way things are done. You are trying to make sure that you have a more moralized country, and then the vehicle you intend to use from day one turn out to be reeking of corruption, allegations of corruption and misdeeds. Of course, that will not foster confidence in people. People will begin to question Obi's sense of judgment to have even opted for Labour Party to start with, without considering all the people which he has to deal with. And it's not the Labour Party that is the problem, it's the people that came in with Obi into Labour Party. Doyin Okupe came from PDP, into Labour Party, and those are the people creating some challenges.
Okay, let's do it this way, sir. My beloved Kabiesi, I want to make sure that we are as balanced as possible, and I know there are so many people listening to us now who may have their sentiments for Mr. Peter Obi or the Labour Party. I think it's about time some of you called in to express yourself. Keep it simple, please. Don't let's use negative language. I know emotions must be charging at this juncture, but please, the sign of maturity is making sure that even when you disagree with somebody's position, you at least make your point devoid of disrespect. The numbers to call, should you want to call into this program and give your own opinion of the situation as it's building up, numbers are 070 322 77338, 070 322 77338, or 090 9555 1039, 09095551039. You can also send WhatsApp and text messages to those numbers. Kabiesi, yes. I think it's about time we moved beyond Obi now and be previewing the parties, their preparedness, the conduct of the major candidates against next year's election. Any major point you want to raise regarding how the parties are conducting themselves, especially as it pertains to the alleged incidences of attacks on other parties' campaign teams, defacement of publicity materials. What's your take on such untoward developments?
Yes, many people had thought that maybe this election will be devoid of violence and intimidation and harassment. In fact, from the moment when the candidates went to Arewa House, and I had El Rufai making an allegation against Peter Obi that when he was the governor, it was Obi that actually tried to detain him, to barricade him in his hotel room. That he tried, that he allegedly did. Yes. So that very moment, I started thinking about, are we going to have incidents of harassment and violence? Even though El Rufai committed himself to the fact that that would not happen. But I was very upset when I learned about the death or the killing of a Labour Party candidate.
Female leader, woman leader.
Woman leader in Kaduna State. I was very, very disturbed about that. That look, no matter what the differences are, that situation should not have occurred. And till now, I think it behoves on the government of Kaduna State to ensure that that killing is totally and thoroughly investigated.
Also in Kaduna State, allegedly, when PDP held its rally, allegedly some hoodlums who were alleged to be members of the ruling party were supposedly reported to have attacked them.
Yes, we had that. That was when the Arewa House was going on. Those who went there claimed they felt it was provocative for Atiku to campaign when that was going on. Of course, that is rubbish. Why can't people go and campaign? It's up to Atiku when he wants to campaign, particularly when it's not against the law.
It was not even limited to Kaduna. There were reported incidents in Gombe.
Yes.
When the governor supposedly banned media houses because it does seem to be too coincidental that most of the states where intolerance have been exhibited seem to be APC states. Your take on that, please?
Yes, not actually APC state alone. We had an incident in Adamawa about harassment of APC people too. I think these politicians are just doing what they like. The fact that nobody is being processed through the criminal justice system for harassment or unleashing violence during electioneering process is also not helpful. We cannot claim we don't know those people who are perpetrating all these activities, and many of them they were done in broad daylight, so nobody can deny that. It should not be acceptable in any society for that to happen, particularly where we claim we are practicing democracy. And I think it's not too late. Politicians need to haul their boys in and ensure that all candidates are able to campaign freely throughout the whole country, irrespective of where that candidate is from. It does not matter. People should have a right to hawk their wares, and it's up to the voters to choose to buy the wares or not to buy them. But we should not condition.
The inherent logic in this submission you are making is that the security agencies may not be punching their weight enough.
Yes.
To your intellectual satisfaction.
Honestly speaking, go into go into our history. Many people do a lot of things during election period, and they get away with it. The police seems to be so reluctant to prosecute, people for electoral offenses. So also, INEC. I think I remember reading about some 3-4 years ago when INEC, claimed that there were over 85 or 89,000 infractions committed by politicians. But till now, I don't think 10 people have been processed through the criminal justice system. So when you have a situation where people can, commit infraction and get away with it and nothing would happen, and you expect them at the next election not to repeat it, they will do the same thing, because it's a way of it's about behavior modification, and that's what they're doing. They're using violence as a form of therapy to condition people, to drive fears into their mind, so that they can have their way, and that should not be allowed in any democracy. It's actually contributing to the deficit of our democratic system.
If I may extend the logic of your valid point, and the point cannot be easily contradicted by any sane mind. If I may extend the logic of that point, it means that apart from the security establishments or the security agencies falling short of what should be the standard role they ought to be playing, indeed it speaks to the vacuity, the hollowness of some of the pronouncements of the president, that he would make sure that the election takes place in a dignified and very respectable environment. What do you say to that?
Well, as far as I know, the president is not saddled with the responsibility of conducting elections. INEC has the sole responsibility to conduct elections, while
INEC does not control the security agencies.
That's what I'm saying. Other government agencies, the security machineries of the country, need to create the right environment, needs to create the ambience for INEC to be able to conduct the elections, so that we can have a free, fair and credible elections. If the security agencies fail to do their part, then it's never going to work. You will not have a free, fair and credible election. So I think where the role of Mr. President comes in here is to give a marching order, to the IG, the Director General of the DSS, to get their acts together and make sure that they are able to create a conducive atmosphere for people to conduct elections. And where there are cases of violence, the perpetrators must be arrested and processed through the criminal justice system, not just for the security services to turn a blind eye to like what is going on.
How well are you impressed with the issues that the parties are speaking about in this electioneering cycle? Are there issues that you can identify with any of the major political parties and candidates? Just asking.
Yes, we've had many of the candidates talking about their plans. At least we now have a manifesto from Obi. We have had one from Atiku and Tinubu. So if you go through all the contents of the manifestos, they are well written, very good initiatives and policies, being planned. You would expect that Nigeria will be a Eldorado no matter who comes in. But the fact of the matter is, these are just promises which we are not too sure whether they will be implemented. Now, if you look at
especially in the backdrop of 2015,
yes, Atiku's plans to not to turn around the refinery, but to actually privatize NNPC, actually caught my attention. And while on one part the NNPC has become an albatross on the country, is a cesspool of corruption, but should an Atiku be the one to privatize NNPC, given all the revelations made by his former principal I was a bit concerned about that. And also, in the APC's manifesto, my attention got drawn to the issue of reforms and regionalization. When you look at the fact that many people have been clamoring for restructuring, what exactly will that mean? Does it mean the same thing as restructuring? So, but
they promised devolution in 2015, and we are yet to see powers devolved to.
That didn't happen. They
also set up a committee
headed by El-Rufai, to produce a report. That report was produced, but it has not seen the light of the day. But what we seems to have is the National Assembly, or the APC, preferring a piecemeal approach, to restructuring. But as fate will have it, our country is lucky that, given the security situation, the bad security situation, all the northern governors seems to have realized that it's better to have a devolved, security system than a centralized one, and that would actually help the cause of those who are agitating for restructuring. In the case of Tinubu's manifesto, I saw regionalization, and also reform. My reading of it is that he wants to go back to what was negotiated, which was 1963 Republican Constitution, but with a modification, which is no longer 3 regions. It will now be 6 regions.
Indeed, post 1963, it became 4 regions. You will remember that
Midwest, the creation of Midwest made it 4
as a result of a well-conducted referendum plebiscite. The Midwest came out of the South, out of the Western region.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think I saw the plan, his own plan, to make sure that we have 6 regions. That's his own definition of restructuring. So whatever would happen thereafter, we should not forget one thing, that any proposal would have to be approved by National Assembly, 2/3 members of the National Assembly, and not only that, by 2/3 houses of assembly, the state houses of assemblies in the country, before it can become law. So a lot depends on if you have a strong leader who can muzzle the National Assembly, who can persuade, the state houses of assemblies and the governors, to back a full reform of our constitution. If we don't do that, we will not achieve restructuring. Having a decentralized policing system alone is not restructuring. There's a physical aspect of it, to achieve the issue of fiscal federalism, the derivation and all that. And how do you manage that in a way that the country, or you won't have some states, collapsing suddenly? All those issues will have to be looked at eventually.
I must ask you this question, given the fact that I still have the privilege to invite you into a live studio, but soon you may be coronated and we may just have to come and meet you. What would you want to suggest to be the roles for traditional rulers? Before you answer that, let me also remind our listeners that should you want to be part of this conversation and indeed chip in an opinion, the numbers to call are 070-322-77338, 070-322-77338, or 0909555139, 0909555139. You can also send WhatsApp and text messages on those numbers. Okabiesi, I was actually asking you, what would you like to see as the functional complementary roles of traditional rulers in the organogram or in the schematics of governance in Nigeria?
Yes, what we have currently, which they call the Chieftaincy Act, in different states of the Federation, is just about the appointment and installation of traditional rulers. We do not have any detailed function assigned to them by the Constitution. That notwithstanding, the traditional rulers have been playing very important roles in different parts of the country. In the southwest, in the northwest, northeast, even in the southeast, many of them have been held accountable or responsible for security breaches, in their own environment. And in some cases,
but is it fair to hold somebody accountable or responsible for a task for which he is not been equipped? Is it fair?
No, it's not fair. That's the point I am about to make. You cannot have traditional rulers, you cannot expect them to play the role they are playing currently without clearly defining, those roles
and responsibilities,
and also how that will be funded. I can give you a good example. There's one in Abeokuta, for instance. They still have the traditional judicial system where people voluntarily, take their cases to the place. So they call it in Arcade is called Yray, and people are satisfied with the decision, and that's why they say Ejokusake, that is, the case has finished there. People don't appeal it quite often, except they appeal to Alake. The people accept the verdict of the traditional court system, and it has helped in many ways to reduce the cases going to court, because they've been resolving issues fairly.
It's a form of traditional arbitration of a sort, which has gained wide acceptance within the people.
Yes, correct. And the people have faith in that system. So when you look at it, it's time we begin to think about how do the roles we expect.
But is this extra constitutional within the is extra constitutional within the definition of our judicature?
Yes, it is. What you see is that in some few cases where issues came up in court, those affected have they relied on the judgment of the Yray, to plead their case.
As a court, just as a court will countenance the decision of an arbitrator of a chain that
is not binding.
It's not binding,
it's persuasive.
But,
it's persuasive. It helps the judge to look at the issue more closely and understand the traditional or the cultural,
dynamics
that must have gone into the whole thing and how it has been resolved. So in a way, it is persuasive, particularly in cases where the burden of proof is balance of probability and not proof beyond reasonable doubt. So we need to begin to look at traditional rulers as stabilizers of their communities, and they are also being made to ensure adequate security in their environment. So government needs to look at how to carve out some rules, maybe along the line of what they are doing currently, and then enshrine that into the Constitution with a view to get traditional rulers to be more accountable. Unlike now, when I don't know how you can hold somebody responsible for a job which has not been defined. But governments have been getting away with it simply because they will just get the traditional ruler removed and then banished. That is not what we want. We don't want any arbitrary system in any democracy. So we should be looking at a situation where government clearly defines responsibilities of traditional rulers, and traditional rulers also are held, accountable, for their failings or their successes.
I must ask you this because I initially got to know you as a fellow emigrants in England. I am not too sure that you are not even a British passport carrier as you speak, and I know that comparatively you've been in Nigeria. You've been a returnee now for at least well over a decade, and I'm thinking, just reviewing the political environment now relative to what you used to be part of. are you very optimistic about the political culture that we seem to be breeding in this part of the world?
Yes, you are right. There are two different environments, and I had different experiences. Bearing in mind that I left Nigeria, was in UK for 20 years, and moved back to Nigeria, and I didn't do too bad in UK. I left as a director anyway, and since then I'm here as a farmer and also a proprietor of a radio station also. But when you look at the two society, there are two different things. Either the way the democracy works, or in terms of the security of the people, the link between the individual security and the national security of the country. It's stronger in UK, for instance, than in Nigeria, where it is a lot weaker. In fact, on a daily basis, we challenge the national security of the country based on our own individual insecurity. And you also look at the difference between how the British, for instance, used their own foreign policy to drive their own domestic agenda, and also use their domestic agenda to drive their own foreign policies. That is intertwined. They see the continuation or the need, to continue to maintain their welfare state, from proceeds which will be gotten from their foreign investment or bilateral and multilateral relationship with other parts of the world. Bearing in mind that international diplomacy is about national interest. It's not about someone else's interest. It's your own national interest. So they've been able to exploit that successfully. And when you look at Nigeria, the last time we had that was when we had Africa as the center piece of our foreign policy.
In view of this point that you've just made now, what is your take of the fact that major political players in Nigeria tend to want to run to Chatham House to go and be pronouncing policy ideas? Atiku did it.
Tinubu has done it. Obi is going also.
Tinubu has done it. Until Obi goes, I won't count it against Obi or for Obi.
He has been invited.
But the point is, do you, as a Nigerian public intellectual, feel patronized or feel is a form of condescension to our political system if the major players in our polity are seen hopping on the plane going to go pronounce policy statements in some? How would you want to respond to that?
Yes, when you look at it, you can look at it from two different angles. One, look at it as a relics of colonialism, or
Kunakolo mentality.
Yes, you can look at it like that. But when you look deeper, you will see the sense in it. Now, Chatham House is different from NED, which is National Endowment for Democracy, which is in America. Chatham House is different from Gestung, which is in Germany. In the case of Chatham House, Nigerians, the largest concentration of Nigerians anywhere in the world outside Nigeria is actually 4 kilometers away, from Chatham House, and that is Peckham Camberwell axis in the southeast of London. So Nigerians have been clamoring that they want to participate in election, they want to vote, they have a voice. We are yet to sort that out, but they are very, very active, very, very involved in what is going on at home. We've seen visuals of Nigerians demonstrating, protesting.
But they would rather prefer the right to vote.
Yes, they will prefer that. We've seen them holding strong views by protesting on the streets of London.
We were part of it when we were there. We wanted the votes then, and I still believe that there should be no taxation without representation, or there should, because they send in a lot of money, about 20 to 24.
No, the current figure is 32 billion
US dollars. It's a lot of money. It's not only peculiar to UK. The totality of our diaspora, 32 billion US dollars is indeed far more at the parallel market rate than the Nigerian budget.
Absolutely. So this is part of the reason why going to Chatham House could also afford them the opportunity, Nigerians in diaspora, to engage, with
but the largest chunk,
politicians.
But the largest chunk of the money comes from America. Why haven't they been going to say the international?
In America, it's totally
relations?
different. But when you look at the configurations in America, many Nigerians are dispersed in different places, and they're
subcontinent.
In some cases, thousands of kilometers away. If you're in Denver, Colorado, and you need to attend a meeting in New York, Chatham House, you are looking at 4.5 hours by here.
You are leaving New Jersey and you're going to Alaska.
Yes. So that's the complexity in the case of America. But I think in the case of UK, there's some merit to it, with a view, to get our people in diaspora involved in the continuing development of our country, because they hold very strong views on it, particularly in UK. I don't think there is so much.
Kabiyesi, when I was reading the Nigerian proverb earlier on, I said, may the number of wise elders not be totally exhausted in the land. We want to thank you for being a wise elder this afternoon, not only to our listeners, but because of technology. This is almost eternal now. You have given wisdom from your perspective. We thank you for coming in physically. But having said that, we also want to join in prayers that we want to be there when the ceremony ultimately happens. Yes. I should give a bit of description to wrap up that is actually the sartorial disposition is such that is in white with beads, and I'm glad to see a friend become an elder one could look up to. Thank you, Kabiyesi Biodun Sowunmi, for being our guest on this Power Corridor this evening.
Thank you for having me. Certainly you get invited. You are my brother.
Thank you, Baba. You heard her voice when she thought some of us were anti-obedient, but she knows that I try to be non-partisan. I beg her to calm down, like I will tell the obedience to calm down. Mama Ofigo has produced the show today, and until next episode, thank you.